I don't usually do this kind of video, but I feel like I have to on this occasion. As you may know, you may have heard, of the disaster that happened in Texas. Absolute tragedy. I think it's up to 100 people now, the last I've heard, that, are reported either dead or missing, most of which are children. It's the worst kind of scenario that you ever want to hear about. And there's a lot of things circulating on, social media, YouTube, and, all kinds of platforms, right? There's a lot of things circulating. I got a video today about this. And the video was basically saying that this is God's judgment, apparently because of something that some senator in Texas said. Some politician in Texas, um, apparently, said something against God. And so, therefore, this disaster, this tragedy is God's judgment. I mean, what are we talking about here? That makes no sense on so many levels. But this is the kind of thing that's circulating, and I'm making sort of this response video because this was actually sent to me personally. But I've already seen things on YouTube, like just foolishness similar to that, but also people talking about this is prophecy and trying to take credit for prophesying about this. And apparently this is coming from professing Christians. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? I mean, this makes no sense, like, practically, but it makes even less sense biblically. Okay, like, okay, practically speaking, let's say that this is God's judgment and he is sending a disaster because a politician had something negative to say about him. So is God just missing all of the other crazy things that people do and say about God? Like, how is he not just judging everyone every time somebody opens their mouth and says something negative? Or is it because it's a public thing? Well, I live in an area where, well, close to a major city, where we just had this huge parade because it's the month of June. And a lot of, probably all of that, spits in the face of God. And it was sunshine, and I don't hear any kind of disaster happen at the parade. Did God miss that? Or is he excusing sin now? Like, what is it? How about the people who literally get away with murder? Is God missing that? How about the crazy things that people do? Child molestation and all these kind of things, where again some of them actually get away with it. Is God missing these things? Like, do we not understand? Okay, if God is going to judge somebody in that way for saying something against him, the planet would be destroyed because every second of every day there's someone somewhere blaspheming against God, saying something horrible, saying something negative against the creator of the universe, the most high God. Every second of every day this is happening. How about the people who are in these cults and false religions that are actually like worshiping Satan? Like, there are religions out there that are satanic religions that they actually worship Satan. They're an affront to God, completely beyond blaspheming. Okay, a lot of those people live long, healthy lives, prosperous lives. Is God missing that? This makes no sense practically. But then when you look at it biblically, it makes even less sense. Whenever God has poured out his judgment in real time, okay, in my opinion, just reading the Bible, it's always to change the course of humanity. He does these things to change the course of humanity, these overt judgments where everybody know it's a judgment from God. Think about it. We have like three off the top of the head that I can think of really easy: the flood, the Tower of Babel, and Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, these were like overt displays of God's judgment. Okay, and what were they for? It was to change the course of humanity. Like, pre-flood, I sometimes try to imagine how bad it was pre-flood. Okay, and even though I've got a crazy imagination, I can't imagine. I'm sure that I have no way of imagining exactly how bad it was pre-flood. And it's easy to understand why when you read the Old Testament. Because in the Old Testament, okay, after the flood, post-flood, we find out that people were burning their children on altars to false gods. Okay. We find out that it got so bad when it came to like times of famine and stuff like that, that people were actually eating their children. Okay. That's how bad it was after the flood in some areas. How bad what was it pre-flood for God to put that kind of judgment on the entire planet? He said it in his own words that it had gotten so bad, like the heart of man was just purely evil. And so he did something to change the course of humanity. It was the same thing at the Tower of Babel to a much lesser extent, but it was the exact same thing. They were probably starting to do the same thing that was happening pre-flood, which is just focused on humanism. Man was the highest priority. Okay, man was going to make a tower and go up to God. For what reason? I don't know, but probably to challenge God in some way to show that they had power or something. Okay, and what did God do? He confused their language. He changed the course of humanity. He changed the way human beings wanted to do things and said, no, you're going to do things the way I intended you to do things, which was disperse, spread out over the entire planet, okay, and fill the entire planet. And so he confused their language, forced them to separate, okay, again, changing the course of humanity. Sodom and Gomorrah, same sort of deal, okay. Whatever the egregious sin that was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah, okay, the total depravity that was going on there, that was probably going to be ground zero. And I think that's why God put that kind of judgment on that city and the surrounding areas, because I think it was going to be an epidemic that was just going to spread throughout the entire planet. Because what they were doing there, what was so evil, it was an abomination before God. But not just that, it wasn't an isolated thing, it was spreading, because the Bible literally tells us the surrounding cities got the same judgment. And so I think what was happening there is that the sin was so concentrated that it was just going to spread out to the entire planet. And so what did God do? He judged it. He changed the course of humanity, the way things were going there. He wiped out that specific area and that specific sin. The three examples that I gave, what do they have in common? These are things that aren't common. Okay. We don't see we've never seen a worldwide flood again. Okay. We don't see all of a sudden people not being able to speak their native tongue and having to all of a sudden speak a different language out of nowhere. Imagine waking up one day and, hey, honey, and all of a sudden there's a different language coming back at me and I can't understand her. She can't understand me. Like, we've never seen anything like that. Okay. We've never seen anything like fire and brimstone falling out of the sky and destroying entire cities. We've never seen that. We see all kinds of threats, comets and asteroids and all these things passing by the earth, okay, and meteor showers that burn up. Some of them hit the earth, but we don't see that sort of thing where we can plainly say, okay, this is different. This we haven't seen before. Therefore, this must be. The video that I got said that kind of flood that happened in Texas we haven't seen before. Like, what are they talking about? Every year we hear about these kind of natural disasters happening. There's floods, there's hurricanes, there's tsunamis, there's tornadoes. Like, these type of things happen every year, and obviously it's a tragedy. People lose their lives, and I can only imagine what the families are going through. I mean, I can't think of anything worse than a parent losing a child. And when I got the, like I said, all I could say in response when I got the video in real time was just pray for them. Like, I didn't know how to respond to the video, because to me it was so crazy to see that kind of thing circulating, and in the name of Christianity they're talking as if they have some kind of insight about what God is doing here. This stuff is not good. This is not good, and as Christians we should not be sharing these type of things. Okay, I know anyone can make anything and put it out there, but we can be a little bit more responsible in terms of what we share. Okay. This has nothing to do with God's judgment. This has to do with a fallen world. If there's anyone to blame, you got to go back and blame Adam and Eve. Okay. They're the one who introduced sin into the world. They're the one who tarnished God's creation. Okay. Paul literally says in Romans that the entire creation is waiting for redemption. Okay. And this is why we see these type of tragedies happening year after year, time after time. Natural disasters, whatever you want to call them. Okay, disaster, whether it's a disaster or an accident where a family loses their life in a car accident or something, like it's the same thing. These are products of a fallen world. As Christians, this is what we should be explaining to people. If someone has a question or if we want to share something, people are grieving over this tragedy. How confusing is it if somebody sees this? Oh, this is God's judgment. Like, what are we doing? Because some politician had something negative to say. As Christians, we should always start with prayer, okay? In any kind of, tragedy, whether it's a disaster like that or something else, okay? We should remember to start with prayer. And then if we are going to offer some sort of explanation or something like that, okay, if you feel compelled to do that, fine. But do it in a biblical way. Like explain to people that these things happen because sin is in the world. God did not intend for sin to be a part of the world. It is because of human choice. Okay. And God is working to redeem this, not bringing disaster on people because they have something bad to say. Again, if that were the case, we would be seeing like the planet Earth would look like Jupiter. Okay. Apparently, Jupiter is like one constant storm. That would be planet Earth. Just a constant storm. If God was using storms to judge people, there would be no end to it. So if we're going to offer explanation, let's offer a biblical explanation. Okay, let's explain to people that Jesus himself said that all of these things, all of these signs and everything else, we should not concern ourselves with it. It's not to say that God can't judge or God doesn't judge, okay, in real time. Okay? It's not to say that. It's to say that we should not be concentrating or thinking about that. We should be thinking about how to love God and love our neighbor in this crazy world that is basically telling us to not do that. This world is telling us love yourself. You are the highest priority. Your feelings, your well-being, your whatever, okay? The human being is the highest priority. That's what this world is constantly trying to sell us on. And so what we should be focused on is loving God and loving neighbor in a sacrificial way. When when God decides to really judge the planet, everyone is going to know. We probably won't even need to talk about it. Everyone is just going to know what's going on because it's going to be that obvious. That's what Jesus says. Okay, all of this is going to get a lot worse before the new creation. And so it's going to be very, very obvious. Listen, Jesus literally tells us to not be anxious, to not be anxious about tomorrow. And this is just what this reminds me of. When I see these kind of videos circulating, all it's doing is spreading anxiety. You know, that's all it's doing. And so, I felt like I had to just kind of respond to this after I listened to the video that was sent to me, and I just kind of thought about it. I'm like, if that stuff is circulating, then we probably need more just rational biblical understanding circulating as well. Obviously you can't stop anybody from posting anything. I can only hope that if people are saying or posting things in the name of Christianity, read your Bible first. Like see what God actually reveals in his word before you put your opinion out there. All right. Obviously we live in a world of free speech and all this kind of stuff, quote unquote free speech for free speech, but you know, at least if you're Christian, read the Bible first, get a biblical perspective, and then talk about Christianity or talk about things from a Christian perspective. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't have a huge YouTube platform, obviously. If 100 people see this video, then I'm hoping that 100 people have just a better perspective, more insight on these kind of things because these things keep happening and everyone's got something to say about it. Just think about these things biblically. Read the Bible. God has revealed everything about this life in his word. Bad things are going to happen. Okay. We have a God that's faithful. And regardless of what happens, He has a plan for every individual Christian, every actual Christian that's adopted child of God. He has a plan for them. And whether the storm hits them or the storm passes them and they just know about it, he's going to get them through. He's going to get us through. That is clear in the Bible. So that's it for now. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay blessed, stay strong, and most importantly, stay biblical. That's all for now.